One of the coolest things about Mortal Kombat is seeing how characters evolve over the games. Like every new game brings new costumes, new art styles, and new interpretations of that character. And sometimes those redesigns could be incredible, like MK9 Scorpion, that one was awesome. I liked MK1 Johnny Cage over MKX and MK11 Johnny Cage. I think it was a huge upgrade. And while controversial, I loved MK1 Reptile compared to MKX and MK Armageddon's Reptile and even MK9's Reptile. I think MK1 had a better Reptile. I think it was one of his better costumes in years. But then you look at these redesigns that make you stop and ask, okay, what was NRS thinking? What was Midway thinking? What happened here? The ones that take a character that already looked great and somehow make them less memorable, less intimidating, or sometimes just straight up weird looking. So today we're looking at some of the worst Mortal Kombat redesigns. Not necessarily bad characters, not even bad games, just redesigns that I think were major downgrades from what came before. But if you guys don't know me by now, I'm Mr. Frosty Flames, but you can call me Mike. We do anything gaming news, reviews, playthroughs, etc. and we do it in a chill way with no over editing BS. So if you enjoy that style of content, be sure to hit that sub button and join the Mr. Frosty Flames Legion. Anyways, let's get back to the video. So the first character I actually want to talk about is Stryker from MK3 all the way to his next appearance, MK Armageddon. Now look, Stryker has always been a difficult character to make exciting. He's basically just a regular cop standing next to ninjas, sorcerers, and four-armed beasts. But MK3 Stryker at least had identity. I mean, when you looked at him, you immediately knew who he was. He was like a mall cop in that game. He didn't even look like a normal police officer. And then flash forward to Armageddon Stryker, he looks like he got lost on his way to a paintball tournament or something. I feel like the tactical gear is bad. It's not awful, but it's just bad. The problem is that it removes what little uniqueness Stryker had. Instead of standing out, he kind of just blends into everyone else's mush. And when your character is already fighting an uphill battle for relevance, that's not what you want. You don't want to look like that. I mean, some people thought he looked like Johnny Cage or just some generic special forces dude, but I loved when he kind of looked funny. I mean, he's a comic relief character, at least on paper, right? So at least make him look funny. I loved his dad bod with his blue shirt, his backwards hat. You know, he was a cop, but he was an over-the-top cop, you know, and him pulling out SMGs and throwing grenades at you. It was awesome, especially dressed like that. I don't want to see him dressed in like a swimsuit. It looked like a wetsuit or something. It just looks weird. And speaking of MK Armageddon, that one butchered another character, which is Motaro, because this one hurts. MK3 Motaro was terrifying. You know, he was a half man, half centaur. He was huge, intimidating, and one of the most memorable boss characters in the franchise history. I mean, you just take one look at that character and you're like, yeah, that's gonna stick in my mind. And then Armageddon happened, and suddenly Motaro lost half of what made him Motaro. His whole horse side, like his centaur body, was gone. He's basically just a guy with horse legs, and I understand why it happened. You know, the developers had technical limitations and they couldn't really program the Motaro legs into the game without, you know, huge coding and everything, you know. But let's be honest, you know, that wasn't Motaro anymore. This was Motaro from Wish or something, man. It was bad. And speaking of the 3D era, we're gonna go back one game to Mortal Kombat Deception. Now, this game debuted a bunch of characters, one of which was Ashrah, and I loved her in that game. Now, fast forward to her next game, Armageddon, man, she had the same costume. Fast forward to her next standalone game that wasn't Armageddon, it's MK1. Now, this is where things get controversial, because I actually love MK1 Ashrah. As a character, I love her, you know. She's my main, but as a redesign, I'm not so sure. Deception Ashrah immediately stood out to me. You know, the whole white outfit, the hat, the mysterious appearance, right? It looked awesome. She looked completely different from everyone else. MK1's Ashrah feels more generic, like a fantasy warrior or something. She kind of looked like, I don't know, Wonder Woman or something. Not really, but it just reminds me of it. I mean, it's not a terrible design, but it's just less unique. When I see Deception Ashrah, I instantly know who it is. When I see MK1 Ashrah, I sometimes feel like she could belong in a dozen other different fantasy games. I mean, look at her face, man. She just kind of looks like Devora. But I do understand why she does look like that, because she's a demon from the Netherrealm trying to regain, you know, humanity by doing good stuff, killing other demons, etc, etc. But I'm not digging the whole Devora bug-eyed look with those things on her head. I guess it's supposed to be demonic or something, and she's sort of halfway transforming back into a human, but it's just weird to me. But anyways, next I chose a character that hits close to home, one of my favorite characters in the entire series, and that's Tanya. I actually think MKX Tanya gets way too much hate, and I love MKX Tanya. So I'm comparing the MKX Tanya to Mortal Kombat 1. MKX Tanya had attitude, it had personality, she felt dangerous, she had a lot of sass. MK1 Tanya isn't bad, but it just feels so much safer, less distinctive, less memorable, and even her face, I mean, like, MKX Tanya was hot. I'm gonna say it like that. Like, she was hot to look at, you know? MK1 Tanya is just old, and I really just didn't even like it. I wasn't digging it. I was like, man, this isn't Tanya. They butchered her so bad. And even down to her character, MKX Tanya looked like somebody who would betray you before the intro dialogue even finished. MK1 Tanya feels like a royal guard. I mean, that's what she is. But I mean, her character is supposed to be like a scheming opportunist. At least that's what the fans knew her as. You know, that character is still there, but the edge feels gone, and you know, I don't like it. But next, I'm gonna go back to Deception again. MK Deception had some awesome outfits. It had some not awesome outfits, like Sub-Zero's alternate outfit. That one sucked, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Havik. Havik looked cool. I loved Havik in MK Deception. I don't like Havik in MK1. I like him as a character, but Deception Havik had something special. You know, like the exposed bones, the twisted smile, the completely unhinged appearance, sometimes with the hood on. He looked like a chaos incarnate, you know, he was mysterious too. MK1 Havik still looks good, don't get me wrong, but the problem is that he just feels cleaner. He has like a weird haircut too, he's more restrained, he's less disturbing. The old design looked like somebody who genuinely shouldn't exist, and honestly, that's exactly what Havik should look like. He's a chaos incarnate, he's the cleric of chaos. So I expected them to go all out once the leak settled in and everyone was like, yo, Havik's in the game, right? But they really just dumbed him down and nobody really liked it. I mean, some people did like it, but it's like 50-50. And speaking of MK1 and its bad redesigns, I also want to talk about Shao Kahn from MK9 and MK11 to General Shao and MK1. Now, I understand that they are different characters, but come on, man. This is supposed to be Shao Kahn. General Shao is eventually gonna turn into Shao Kahn, hopefully. And just compare that, the MK1 version, to Mortal Kombat 9, because I feel like that Shao Kahn is peak. I don't even know where to start. The armor, the helmet, the size, the presence. I mean, he looked like the final boss of Mortal Kombat. And General Shao isn't a bad design, but he just doesn't feel as iconic. I mean, the horns are weird, but I guess some people think they're cool. His armor could be solid, but when I look at General Shao, I see a powerful warrior. When I look at MK9 Shao Kahn, I see a conqueror, a leader, the one who commands an army. And when you look at MK1 General Shao, he just is like a jobber. I mean, he's like 1-for-1 in Reiko. I mean, I barely see him win fights. I think Reiko's design is cooler than General Shao, and that's telling because Reiko's supposed to be the impersonator of Shao Kahn. I feel like in the outfits, you could get Reiko to look more like Shao Kahn than Shao Kahn in base game costumes, you know, when the game first came out. And the last redesign that I chose is actually one that is very criminal in my opinion. It is another Mortal Kombat 1 who, surprise, right? MK1 butchered a lot of designs. Ooh, yeah. This is actually a unique one. This is MK11 Crypt Ermac to Mortal Kombat 1 DLC Ermac. Now, the MK11 Crypt Ermac design was incredible. Fans saw it for 5 seconds when he died in the pit stage, and immediately they wanted it playable. He felt ancient, mysterious, powerful. Then MK1 finally brings Ermac back as DLC and somehow gives us a worse design. You know, MK1 Ermac isn't terrible, but compared to the Crypt version, it's not even close. This is one of the rare cases where the franchise already had the perfect design there, and they just straight up ignored it. I mean, he's not even a playable character. He never has that costume anywhere but in the Mortal Kombat 11 Crypt, and they just wasted it. It's nowhere, right? And then they brought it to MK1, right? And then he has his wraps again. He looks more like a zombie mummy. I mean, that's what he is, but really give us the costume from the MK11 Crypt. It was awesome. And those were the designs that I chose. Now, to be fair, Mortal Kombat has also delivered on some incredible designs, like I said before, like MK9 Scorpion. There are plenty of success stories, and if you want to see me choose my favorite costumes, subscribe and like this video, and if it does well, I'll do that video. But every once in a while, the franchise franchise takes a character, changes something that didn't need changing, and leaves fans wondering why. Those are the designs that stick with people, not because they are terrible, but because we know how much better the character has looked before. And honestly, that's sometimes worse than seeing, a really great design, remembering their most terrible designs. But anyways, that's just my take on it. What costumes did I miss? What redesigns did I miss? Which one is your least favorite out of your characters? Say your favorite character is Smoke or something. What is your least favorite Smoke costume or something like that? Anyways, if you like this video, make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe to join the Mr. Frosty Flames Legion. Thank you guys for watching. Mr. Frosty Flames out. Ciao.